Okay, we are back. And guys, the Astra Militarum got something flavorful and good. Now, I understand I have a neophyte grasp of Astra Militarum, but I play against them quite a bit. So I do have a decent understanding how the army works. And this seems like right on par with what you currently have. There's a few things that disappear, such as like your lethals against vehicles and lethals against infantry, depending on what your unit you have. But the strats are just straight up better, and the detachment rule is pretty dang good. So you maybe like a 5% less good on the detachment rule, but the strats are infinitely better. I think this comes out to be a net win for most Astra Militarum players, but I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are. So let's just go through this bad boy, and I'm going to give you some of my immediately thoughts. All right, so the detachment rule for the Bridgehead Strike. Only the best. Each time an Astra Militarum infantry model from your army makes a range attack, reroll hit rolls of 1. Okay, I get it. Not everyone. It's not that exciting. It's Astra Militarum infantry. And like your Scions already get to reroll hit rolls of 1, and they get full rerolls to hit when you are on an objective. But it's something, and there's a lot more behind this as well. Now, this one. Each time a Militarum Tempestus model from your army makes a ranged attack in a turn in which it was set up on the battlefield from reserves or disembarked from a transport, add 1 to the wound roll. Now this is pretty freaking gross. Now, these freaking Tempestus Scions are slapping, dude. They are seriously starting to put out some actual damage. Your opponent is going to be not super happy the first time they get punched in the face by a Tempestus Militarum freaking Scions unit. These guys get full rerolls on hits if you're on the objective marker, or just normal reroll ones of hits, just so they don't really get much of the detachment benefit from that. But when they get +1 to wound on this comes from out of the transport or out of deep strike. That becomes a lot. I don't know if you guys have played too much against the Tempestus Scions, but they are already one of the hardest hitting units in the current Astra Militarum Codex. Now they're going to be able to kind of spam this. And don't forget, you can still give them the command squads so that when they're set up on the battlefield, they get their orders for first rank, second rank fire, for extra rapid fire, rerolls to hits at +1. This is very gross, actually. It's really hard. Okay, let's get back into reading about it now. And then lastly, there's another part to the detachment rule. Yeah, they got 3 parts to it. If a Militarum Tempestus officer model from your army is your warlord, then Tempestus Scions units from your army gain the battle line keyword. And while such a unit is not battle shocked, add 1 to the OC characteristic of Tempestus Scions models in said unit. Wow. That is actually a lot. That is actually quite a bit. Now, my question real fast. Do we have Tempestus or Militarum Tempestus on, let's say, Kasserkin? Because I want to see how they benefit from this as well. I just got to look that up. Give me 2 seconds here. If I'm looking at it, I don't see it. Let's find out. Here, let's try this. No, they do not get Militarum Tempestus. Okay. All right, so that answers some questions there. Now let's start going through some of these freaking enhancements. These enhancements are pretty cool. One of them I despise with a passion, which should tell you something about it. Anyway, Bombast class box array. Militarum Tempestus officers model only. Each time the bearer issues an order, if the bearer's unit contains 1 or more models equipped with a master Vox, it can issue that order up to 3 different regiment units instead of only 1. Now, this can be a very, very big deal. It really decreases the what is necessary for how many officers you have around the battlefield. So you could have, say, 1 Militarum Tempestus command squad with this ability, and they can drop with 1 unit of Scions, and then you can also deep strike 2 other units of Scions and still get all 3 of them the order for first rank, second rank fire, so that they have lots and lots and lots of freaking plasma guns shooting at you. This is good. This army has a heck of a drop turn. It's very scary. All right, then we have the priority drop beacon. I despise this. This is a return to the Barbicant's key from 9th edition, which was one of my least favorite things in the world. So for 30 points, you get to deep strike turn 1. Basically, your opponent is not safe. This is very scary, and it's going to cause big deployment issues for a lot of your opponents. Shroud Projector for 15 points. Militarum Tempestus officer model only. Enemy units cannot use the fire Overwatch stratagem to shoot at the bearer's unit. actually pretty dang useful for getting your behind enemy lines, getting your locusts, all these actions. Suddenly, they're not super afraid of the flame tanks, which are all over the place. Solid enhancement. Then we have the Advanced Augury, and this is going to be the last enhancement that we have. It's also 15 points. Infantry Officer, so any infantry officer. After both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 regiment units from your army and redeploy them. When doing so, you can set them up in strat reserves regardless of how many units are already in strat reserves. This will allow you to surpass the points limits on what you're allowed to have in strats reserve. So that is quite useful. All right, let's go through these strats, guys. These strats are awesome. They're very strong, and they're going to allow for some serious, interesting play. Bellicosa Drop. The reinforcement step of your movement phase. 1 Astra Militarum infantry unit from your army that is in reserves and has the deep strike ability. So it does have to have deep strike. I think that's just Scions and Castrican. Yeah, I think so. Until the end of the phase, when your unit is selected to set up on the battlefield using deep strike, it's a 6-inch deep strike. Super solid. Now you could really combine this with the, not the Barbican's Key, I'm going to call it Barbican's Key, but with the priority drop beacon for a turn 1 6-inch deep strike. Ooh, nothing is safe. This is going to allow you to seriously nuke things turn 1 that need to be nuked. It's very, very powerful. Doesn't mean that you're always going to do that, because that is going to be a fairly pricey unit to do all that with, but it's the fact that you can do it means that you're just turn 1, you can nuke the critical piece to your opponent's army, and that is going to cause havoc. Then we look at Servo Designators for 1 CP. Your shooting phase just after an Astra Militarum infantry unit from your army has shot. The Astra Militarum infantry unit. Select 1 enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks that is visible to your unit until the end of the phase. The enemy cannot have cover. So 1 CP, turn cover off from someone. Very solid. We like it. Firing Hot is going to be the next stratagem. For 1 CP in your shooting phase, 1 Militarum Tempestus or Castrican unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, improve the strength and AP characteristic of basically everything that's a las gun. So hot shots, las guns, hot shot, las carbines, hot shot, las pistols, marksman rifles, volley guns, and sentry hot shot, volley guns. That's very good. +1 strength, +1 AP on that is really going to start really moving the needle on how much damage these things can do. Suddenly, you can also combine this with, ignore cover. With +1 to wound, it is actually a shocking amount of damage that these units are going to be putting out there. Maybe I should run a math hammer figure on how much damage a Tempestus Scion unit can do when you start stacking these combos. It's going to be crazy, though. Aerial Extraction for 1 CP. It's going to give you uppy downy on Valkyrie units or Astra Militarum units that have deep strike. Yep. So they're going to have uppy downy. Very powerful. Fire and reload. So for what that means, by the way, guys, your Aquilans can just uppy downy up and down. They can just continuously reproc their 6-inch deep strike, reprocking their drop with the flamer ability. You can do this with your Scions. So if your Scions drop 1 turn to kill something, boom, just bring them right back up, do it again. This is a very, very, very good ability in this detachment. Then we have Fire and Relocate for 1 CP. Your shooting phase, 1 Astra Militarum unit, excluding Titanic units from your army. Until the end of the phase, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advances. So not to be exclusive to your Astra Militarum infantry units, now suddenly your Rogodorans, and so can your tank commanders. These guys can now get advance and shoot, which is very powerful, because remember, you still get the orders, so you're still tank commanders, Rogodorans, all those things are still really, really good, because you're still going to be able to give them the +1 ballistic skill option. And then lastly, we have the On My Position. End of your opponent's fight phase. This is a bonker strat, by the way. 1 regiment infantry unit from your army that is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within engagement range of your unit, and on a 2+, that enemy unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. Then your unit suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. So it's a suicide bomber unit. This is kind of hilarious. It's not actually going to come up all that much. It sounds kind of bonkers, but basically what's going to have to happen is your opponent is going to, it's because it's in your opponent's fight phase, so it's going to encourage them to not tag your infantry units, basically. Because if they tag an infantry unit after they fought, they're basically guaranteed to take d6 mortal wounds. This will also be kind of troublesome for armies that want to charge in, but they might not have the amount of attacks to kill an entire squad. So say it's a few high-quality attacks, but they're not a ton of them. Well, suddenly now your Death Dread or your Carnifex or whatever is going to take D6 mortal wounds because they couldn't kill more than, 3 infantrymen. It's actually a pretty interesting stratagem. I don't think it's that big a deal, to be honest with you. It's just kind of hilarious. So this detachment has a lot of play. I mean, right after that, you can basically see you're going to take 10 squads of scions, and each one of those scions is going to be getting +1 to wound with full rerolls to hit on the objectives. One of them is going to be getting +1 strength and AP to all of their las guns. There is a stunning amount of damage that's going to be coming out of this detachment. I am tempted to say that this is better than what you guys currently have access to as Astro Militarum players. And this is just good, man. This is good. I think it's really, really strong. You've got turn 1 nuke ability. You've got crazy damage combo coming out of relatively cheap units. Now, Scions did get a points increase in the last status light, which makes a lot of sense when you combine with the fact that this detachment was just dropped. And honestly, all your other tank options are still really good. Your Rogodorns, your freaking tank commanders, these things are, your Lehman Russes are still very good, viable options. The only thing that they don't get in this detachment that they got in the previous detachment was lethal hits against vehicles. But now they have access to an advance and shoot strat. This is very strong. I think Astro Militarum players need to be super happy about this one. I am concerned and scared about it for what it's worth. But with that, I'm going to sign off. This was a Sunday drop for you guys because I love and care about all of you, and I want you all to get the most out of your hobby as is possible. So until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.